For sure. Well, Larry, it's great to meet you. Thank you, sir, for taking a minute out. I'm looking forward to delving in to your very rich history and life. And before we get to that point, I want to begin with 4 years ago, we were looking at this global pandemic, trying to figure it out. How did you survive that time period and how did it change you?
Well, I survived it by doing what I've always done. It didn't change me. It changed the way I do business and the pace of business for a period of time. I would say the greatest impact that the pandemic had on me was learning how the world adapted and who was prepared and who wasn't. I I don't believe that we are not in control of our lives. I believe we are in control of our lives. And I believe you can build, not meaning to get into business instantly, but I do believe that you can build an organization that's durable. And by durable, I mean that can deal with unexpected occurrences like a global pandemic. And I saw a lot of businesses who failed and a lot of businesses who were pushed to the brink and survived, and a lot of businesses who were really well prepared. And that was interesting. I mean, I could ramble on about this quite a bit. I've done a lot of work out of my house over the years. I've owned more than a dozen businesses. So I've had a lot of brick and mortar and I've had a lot of virtual and I've done a lot of that stuff. So my wife and I have been together for 44 years and we actually like each other. We actually love each other and we like each other. So we've had many years of experience of working in the same home. So that was kind of a back to the future kind of a thing for us. It
Sure.
really didn't impact our life. We don't have kids. Um, very involved in education. So one of the organizations that I'm involved with, and one of my passions is to improve the quality of education in this country. And one of the organizations that I'm involved with, that's their purpose. And we have, at that point, we had about 8,000 students in 3 schools and about an $80 million budget. It's all public school money. Our students didn't lose 1 hour of classroom time
Wow.
because we're based in virtual teaching.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's another school on the planet that can say that. Not one of our students lost 1 hour of classroom time.
Wow.
So, the pandemic affected me a little differently than affected most people.
Yeah, and I think the one thing about the pandemic was it's a lot like what you said. There's people that were prepared, there's people that could get in there and take care of things, and then there was people that even before the pandemic just didn't have the skills to do it. I mean, a lot of what we were groomed to become in our lives prior to this was indicative of how we got through it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
well, I think that's absolutely true. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Here in 2024, you're obviously you're an author, you're a successful entrepreneur, but I want to get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I work with successful businesses whose leaders are struggling with change. They usually are struggling because they're seeing something they haven't dealt with before. It's kind of like you. Most of the things you see as third graders are new to you. You haven't experienced them, so it's your first time. These are people who have been very, very successful and are facing new things that they're not familiar with and don't know how to deal with them. So I come in and I give them that insight, that understanding, because I've been there and I've done that. You probably heard that phrase, been there, done that. So that's what I do, is I work with the leadership team and help them make sure their business continues to thrive and continues to survive.
What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Rich.
So how did we get here? Take me
Really, I
back.
mean,
Yeah.
that was my goal, 68 billion in lifetime earnings.
Yeah. No, I get it. So how did we get to this point in your life? Take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were the seeds of being a leader and an entrepreneur? How did all of that grow into who you are?
Well, I'm fifth generation in a family-owned business. We started in the 1850s, and my family was from the beginning very deliberate about paying forward their accumulated knowledge and wisdom. So that by the time it got to me, I was in the middle of an organization that had survived 170 years, been through just a hell of a lot of turmoil, at least 3 or 4 different changes of focus, shifts of focus, products, services, and the value and the markets and the customers. So we'd been through massive amounts of change and been quite successful and survived. When I was in grade school, my father said, this business puts this roof over your head and this food on the table. If you're not in school, you're going to work. And school meant sports, anything related to school. School was priority. So in the morning when they opened, I would get up at 6 with my dad and go to work. And when school was over, if I didn't have any extracurricular activities, they'd pick me up and bring me back and I worked. So I started working at 8 years old. And some people find that to be obnoxious. I find it to be one of my secret competitive advantages. And when I was 13, my dad said to me, I wonder how in the world we ever went from no automobile manufacturers to 300 automobile manufacturers to, to 3 in like 25 years. And while he was wrong with the details, he was right conceptually. And that lit a spark in me that said, why do businesses fail? I thought that's a fascinating question, but I don't care about auto dealers. I care about any business. Why would any business fail if it's a good business and it makes money? So that question is the cloth, the fabric of my life and what my life is sewn onto. I spent 23 years researching why businesses fail. And because there's so many different businesses, I felt that I needed to create a subset that was manageable. So I identified 4 demographic criteria. It has nothing to do with revenue, employees, industry, or legal structure. And nothing to do with those things, which are the common things people look at when you try to segment business. And 23 years of primary research and gathered data and put it in a book. Over that time, I'm 67 now, so over those 50 years or 55 years, whatever it was, I I came to understand that I'm a non-recovering serial entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is a disease. It's an incurable disease. It's a non-fatal disease. But like all incurable diseases, it has to be managed. And, my life was spent being an entrepreneur and learning how to manage the disease. I committed suicide with some of my businesses. I was very successful with some of my businesses. And, I took the knowledge that I had and the experience that I had, and I found ways to share it with other people. And in the words of an unexpectedly wise Alex Trebek, was able to do something that I loved and got paid for it. When you do things you like, you get paid. Um, you don't have to worry about it. So I could literally, I could talk about this for three
No, no, no,
days.
I understand. No, 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 I get it. And I kind of want to leapfrog to my next question, which is who's been that inspiration? Who's been that motivator for you in your life to be as highly driven and successful as you've been?
My father, without any question whatsoever. In the book, there's a number of quotes from him in the opening. One of the things that he said was the most important characteristic is perspective or persistence. if you never give up, you never fail.
Yeah.
There's just no question. I mean, literally, the people that I grew up with, I still am in touch with them. He took care of a lot of people, and he's the namesake of a number of people that I know as their children. When we talk, his name was Louis. We talk about the University of Louis. I mean, this is not just me. I didn't come up with this. These are the people that knew him, that he mentored and tutored and nurtured, and the people that he was exposed to in his life, and in that life that he and I shared.
Yeah.
Um, he's an amazing man. I mean, everybody says their parent. Everybody says that, and I understand that. I don't expect anybody to put my dad on a pedestal, but for me, he was.
Yeah. So in the world of business, what's an ideal business model? What is a business that you've always admired for the way that they operated, treated people, their outcomes? What's that business for you?
Well, it sounds like you're asking about a market segment or an industry, and that's not the way I think about business. The business that's ideal in my mind is the business that's achieved three what I call operational imperatives. They have to have clarity of purpose. They have to be able to deliver consistent performance, not only to their market, but to their employees, their vendors, and their communities. And they have to understand and be effective at engaging their people. It's purpose, performance, people. And by purpose, what I mean is they have to have a long-term vision. They have to understand why they exist and what their long-term goals are, what they want to do, what they want to be. This educational company I told you about, their purpose is to change the way education works in this country, to make it better. And there's some specifics to that, but without going into the weeds or into the details, that's their purpose. And everybody in that company is emotionally committed to that purpose. So everybody's on the same page and everybody understands that it's bigger than any one person. So everybody gets a chance to work on a big, hairy, audacious goal that they care about with other people that care about it. And that's the starting point. When you can find a place like that and people like that, that's the first step towards success, towards enjoyment, towards a career that you love. Being able to perform is critical. You got to have the skill to do the stuff. If you don't have the skill, you can't do it, right? And then the last piece of that is everybody has to be connected. They have to be engaged. They have to see that the thread that they represent, no matter how big, how strong, how dull, how bold, how thick, how thin, every thread of humanity in that organization is critical to the success of that organization, and they play a key role. And as organizations grow and get bigger, that becomes more and more and more important. Each and every individual, and I'm talking about large companies. So to me, it's that. It's clarity of purpose, the ability to deliver performance consistently, and having an engaged workforce. And when I recruit and when I hire, those are the criteria I look for, people who care about those things. I don't worry about skills. I do worry about behavioral characteristics. That's part of purpose. You have to, diversity is a big deal. Diversity brings great value to organizations. It just brings value in every possible way you can imagine it. It reduces racism, it reduces fear. There's just nothing but good that comes from diversity. The problem with diversity is you end up with a broad range of beliefs, values, senses of right and wrong, philosophies, behavioral norms. You get this mix of differences that are hard to manage sometimes. So the trick is to find a small set of values that everybody can agree are the primary values, the things that are going to guide their behavior regardless within that diversity. So that's part of my recruiting process, and that's part of clarity of purpose, because it's, one of my values, one of my values in my organization is we are constantly learning. I believe in values statements. So the value is learning, and the statement is we are constantly learning. And that means everybody has to be hungry for knowledge,
Mhm.
right? I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're black. I don't care where you're from or what you believe in. If you believe knowledge is critical and you are hungry for learning, you can be part of my team, because I can teach you what you need to know. That's easy, right? I can't change your behavior. You are who you are.
That's interesting. I remember I'm an IT technician by day, and I remember the two criterion that my boss had um, during our interview. There was a whole bunch of people in the room, bunch of administrators, and his two criterion was a good attitude and a willingness to learn. That was the
Mm-hmm.
hallmark of what he wanted to see done. And that was such a striking departure from what I was used to in being in my environments where people were hiring. And and that's how I roll. So I get it.
Sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah, he is a smart guy. Yeah, he was one of the best bosses I ever had in my entire life. Um, so I'm curious if you can meet one person, whether it's in business or otherwise, one person on the planet that you find fascinating and spend a little time with them, who would that be?
That's a question I have not really thought about. Um, if Given that I don't have time to think about it, and given that there's no context, it would probably be someone like Aristotle, an old Greek philosopher,
Yeah,
possibly one of the leading Roman senators at the peak of the Roman Empire. It would be someone who brought clarity and thought into difficult philosophical environments and found a way to not only deal with it but talk about it and instill wisdom and understanding around it. It would be that kind of a person, because their world would have been so different than mine. I'm a big believer of multiple contexts and multiple perspectives. When I wrote my business book, I was in a critique group of born again Christians. I'm a Jew. Book has nothing to do with religion,
yeah,
but they prayed before we had our meeting and they prayed after we had our meeting. And I don't believe in Jesus. So it was a very different perspective.
yeah.
And 80% of what I got was worthless, but 20% of what I got was gold, because they weren't business people, but the questions they asked and the things they didn't understand was just so powerful. I'm a big believer of that, finding ways to get multiple perspectives, which is links to my belief around diversity, the value of diversity.
What has been the ultimate motivator for you all these years to be successful, to be somebody that helps other people get to better places in their lives and to also evolve as a human being? What is that ultimate motivator that gets you out of bed and does that every day?
Well, it may sound corny, but having come from an uncommonly successful family business, my passion really, here's where it started. Somebody said to me, my passion. Somebody said to me, if it's a startup, everybody was big on startups in the 70s. If you have a startup and it makes it 3 years, it'll be fine. And I'm like, well, that's the stupidest effing thing I've ever heard. That's ridiculous. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
Well, if they make it 5 years, they'll survive. That's stupid. Well, so that connected for me the fact that when an organization fails, particularly a startup, not only is the founder humiliated and devastated, but so is all of the people that invested in him or her, and all of the people that worked at the company, and everybody that did business with the company. And it may have been the greatest company we've ever seen, but it failed because somebody didn't do something right. And why is that? And if I can figure out why that is, and I can help people understand how to not do that, think of the economic impact I can have on the world. And that's my purpose. I have two purposes in life, and one of my purposes, I shorthand it by saying no help wanted ads. And what that means is everybody that wants a job has one and loves it, and everybody that has employees loves them and treats them properly. And I don't think that's hard to do. And I think if people, that's why I'm not interested in prospects or customers. I'm not looking for business. I have no interest in new clients. I'm not looking for new clients. I'm looking for better clients. And I don't need better clients because I've got great clients. I haven't done any marketing for 25 years. I just want people to know that I have, and this is not about Larry being smart. I want people to know that I have objective primary data from research, rigorous research that can help them understand how to avoid business failure. If they care, I'm happy to share it with them. If they don't care, I'm fine with that. I don't want to
Yeah.
control anybody's life.
Yeah.
That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That drive to get the message out that here's information that might be valuable to you.
Yeah.
And that links to the educational piece, because I believe that every business person has a fiduciary responsibility to support education. If you don't, shame on you. You shouldn't be allowed to be in business. Because if you don't develop our youth, you're never going to have a workforce and you're never going to have a market to sell to. So don't be a moron. Support education. And
So
it's screwed up.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So you give a lot of good advice to your clients. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
That I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I haven't been asked that for a long time.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Tanstaffel. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. So let me ask you this. Of all of the things that you've done and succeeded in and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Well, that falls into a number of different categories. One of the, I can easily tell you that one of the things that I'm the proudest of was that I was the lead for the reorganization of the California Public Employee Retirement System IT department. That doesn't mean much to most people, but they had a $90 million annual budget and they managed the retirement and the healthcare for every state employee in the state of California. And they had one of the only 3 data centers in the state, and it had been built as a data center and was used as an IT department, and that doesn't work. So I re-engineered the entire thing. They had spent 10 years trying to do it and couldn't, and I was hired to come in and do it, and I did it, and I got took 4 years. I got a standing ovation from every senior appointed and elected official of the department. They said it couldn't be done, and I did it. Um, my plan was approved by the state auditor with 0 edits, 0 conditions, 0 milestone criteria. They just literally said, okay. That was impressive because that was a 1 billion project. I had $350 million in that project, and it involved, thousands of people. That's not a particularly good thing. It's a flashy thing. And it's something that gives me the ability to say, I have proof that I know what I'm doing. I don't need your approval.
Yeah.
In terms of the best thing I've ever done, it's my work with this educational company, the charter school management company. There's nothing I've done in my life better than that, other than be a good husband. Nothing. That's number one, because that affects so many people's lives, thousands and thousands. I mean, been with this organization for over 20 years, and we've grown from about 3,000 students to this year we have about 9,000 students. And if you think about that over 20 years, it's a lot of people.
Yeah,
And it's a lot of people that they marry, and a lot of kids that they raise, and a lot of communities that they are part of, and a lot of businesses that they run and that they support. And, I help those people learn how to be learners, learn how to appreciate education indirectly. And I help those people learn how to live rewarding, fruitful, happy lives. I'm the board chair. I don't do any tactical stuff, but I provide leadership from that, 100,000 foot level.
sure, sure.
It's all important. Everybody's important, but to be in that role has been very, very rewarding.
So at the end of the day, Larry, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients,
Mhm.
colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
In 2014, I hired a company to do a brand equity analysis of my consulting practice. So I can tell you that they talked to clients, colleagues, and employees. And there were three universal comments. First, he really loves his wife. Second, he's an acquired taste. Third, I have no idea what he does, but what he did for us was amazing.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm a difficult guy who's opinionated and knows how to have fun, doesn't like most people, is not a big fan of small talk, and I'm very comfortable in my own skin.
I totally get that. I totally get that. Um, man, I should have ran into you at some point in life. I would have loved working for you. Yeah, you get right to it, man. So, Larry, if
You're not the first person to say that.
I bet I'm in a long
And,
line of people.
and you might not feel that way if you really came and was part of it, but that's
Right.
okay.
Well, proof's in the pudding, but I got
That's
a
right.
good taste today. So, hey, if anyone and I know you want better clients, but you don't need clients, and if anyone wants to reach out, they want to get your book, they want to learn more about you, what you're doing with your educational foundation, any of the good business, where do they
Mhm.
go?
Well, the easiest is mandelberg.biz. If you can remember how to spell Mandelberg, then it's mandelberg.biz. If you can't, just go to Amazon and put in suicide or businesses don't fail, anything, because it's uncommon enough that you can find me that way. There's two websites, mandelberg.biz and businessesdon'tfail.com. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Um, Larry at Mandelberg.biz. I'm pretty easy to find. You get my spelling right on my name and you can find me online. And I do a lot of free consultation. I do a lot of pro bono speaking. My thing is to help people. And as long as I can give you some help in a reasonable amount of time, I'm happy to do it. Like I said, what I care about is I want people to know that the information that's in that book. If they don't care about it, that's fine. Just know that it's there, because if someday you may want to understand it.
I dig it. Totally. Larry, this has been refreshing. Thank you, sir. Best of luck. Keep doing the wonderful work.
Thank you. Please send me the link when you get it up.
I will. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Take
Yeah,
care.
Joe. Bye.